It is not that Jules necessarily wants to be dangerous or dominant. It is that these traits feel safer than being small or soft or scared. They feel like armor. To understand Jules, we have to look at how trauma affects identity. When someone experiences trauma at a young age, especially sexual trauma, the brain often tries to protect itself by splitting the self into different roles. One role carries the pain, while another learns to survive. Jules' everyday self is sensitive, dreamy, and artistic, someone who wants real love and connection, someone who wants to be truly seen. But the hunter version of her is bold, seductive, and slightly detached, someone who does not feel scared of older men or dangerous situations because she is not really her. It is like Jules sends this version of herself into the world to take hits so the real Jules doesn't have to. This can be a form of dissociation where the person emotionally steps outside their body or identity, allowing them to go through experiences without fully feeling them. Jules' online relationships highlight this. The way she behaves behind a screen is completely different from who she is in person. When she talks to strangers online, Jules acts like she is hunting for validation, affection, or excitement. But when she is with someone who genuinely cares about her, like Rue, she becomes shy, nervous, and almost overwhelmed. This flip between personas shows how trauma can make it easier to be intimate with people who are emotionally unavailable or even unsafe, because it requires less vulnerability. Vulnerability is something Jules fears deeply, not because she does not want it, but because vulnerability once led to pain. You can see this in her discomfort when someone treats her gently or sees her as more than just a fantasy. The hunter persona thrives on being seen as a fantasy because fantasy keeps her safe. Fantasy cannot reject or hurt you the way real connection can. One of the most important parts of Jules' psychology is the way she tries to feel alive through intensity. People with trauma often search for emotional highs and risky situations not because they enjoy danger, but because it temporarily drowns out the emptiness or fear inside them. Jules is drawn to intensity because intensity is a distraction. The hunter persona is born from this same need. Jules uses it to chase emotional stimulation, not genuine connection. The problem is that the more she uses this persona, the further she gets from her true self, and the more she confuses attention with affection. Another element of Jules' trauma is the instability she experienced at home. Her mother's addiction and abandonment left her with a deep fear of being left again. This fear shapes almost every decision she makes. When someone pulls away from her, even a little, Jules panics internally. When someone pulls toward her, she sometimes runs. The hunter persona allows her to feel like she can leave first, like she can be the one who stays distant so she never has to feel the pain of being left behind again. In this way, hunter is not just a persona, it is a shield against abandonment. It is a version of Jules who cannot be hurt because she never lets anyone close enough to hurt her. At the same time, Jules craves love deeply. She wants softness, connection, and understanding, but she fears the vulnerability required to receive them. This creates an emotional conflict inside her where she wants love but feels unsafe having it. She wants to be seen but feels terrified of being truly known. She wants intimacy but feels safer in fantasy. The hunter persona helps her escape this conflict for a moment, but it also traps her in a cycle of emotional distance. The saddest part is that Jules is not trying to be reckless. She is simply trying to survive with the tools her trauma gave her. Many trauma survivors learn to perform versions of themselves that feel safer, stronger, or numb, because their real selves are still healing. Jules is a young girl who learned too early that the world is not always gentle, so she became gentle on the outside and sharp on the inside. She built a persona that could walk into dark rooms without fear while her real self stayed hidden in the light. The psychology of Jules Vaughn reveals how trauma shapes identity, intimacy, and self-expression in ways that look confusing from the outside but make perfect sense when you understand the pain underneath. The hunter persona is not about manipulation or seduction. It is about survival. It is the armor she built to keep the most wounded part of her safe. It is the mask she wears to avoid feeling powerless again. And it shows how a person can live behind a fantasy version of themselves when the truth feels too painful to face. Jules is someone who wants so badly to be free, but her trauma keeps pulling her back into versions of herself that do not match who she truly is. The journey of Jules Vaughn is ultimately the journey of learning to feel safe in her own skin again. Learning to let go of personas she no longer needs, and learning to trust that she deserves love, not for who she pretends to be, but simply for who she is. Jules Vaughn is one of the most complex characters in modern television because her mind feels like a place made of soft colors and sharp edges at the same time, a world where beauty and pain exist together and often blend until even she cannot tell which is which. When we talk about the psychology of Jules and the hunter persona she uses online, we are really exploring how a teenager builds a second self to survive experiences that her real self is not ready to face. In simple terms, Jules has been deeply shaped by sexual trauma and emotional abandonment, and because of this she develops a version of herself that feels stronger, more seductive, and more in control than she does in real life. Some people think of this as dissociation, which is when the mind creates distance between the self and the painful memories it does not know how to handle. Jules' hunter persona is not just a nickname or a casual online identity. It is almost like a mask she wears to protect the part of her that still feels fragile and scared. In the show, we see hints that Jules learned early on that her body could be used as a kind of currency, something that could get her affection, validation, or escape, and because of this she does not always view intimacy as a safe or connected experience. Instead, she treats it like a game with rules she must learn to survive. The hunter persona becomes her way of rewriting those rules. By acting confident, older, and emotionally detached online, Jules convinces herself that she is the one in control, that she is the one doing the choosing, and that she is not being used the way she once was. This false sense of power creates a temporary emotional shield that helps her avoid the overwhelming fear that comes with vulnerability.